From the Detroit Free Press, I'm Robin Chan with today's Voice Briefing. It's Wednesday, February 21st, 2024.
For the Detroit Free Press, I'm Keith Matheny. 29-year-old Boyne City resident Ian Pritchard went to the hospital in nearby Petoskey with abdominal pain last November. Within a week, he was on a ventilator. He would later be transferred to Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit for more sophisticated care. His lungs, his father said, resembling Swiss cheese. Ian Pritchard ultimately died on February 3rd from complications related to blastomycosis, a fungal spore that can be found in the woods and moist soils, especially in northern Michigan. Most exposed to blastomycosis don't get sick at all. Some get cold or flu-like symptoms and then they quickly recover from them. But for some, particularly those with compromised immune systems, it can lead to debilitating illness and even death. Michigan reports only 2 or so deaths from blastomycosis every year, but some cases may be getting missed as the symptoms can resemble other respiratory illnesses. State public health officials say the public should continue to enjoy the woods and water of northern Michigan, but particularly the immunocompromised should be mindful of the potential exposure to pathogens like blastomycosis. If you have unusual symptoms, visit a medical professional promptly and tell him or her about your potential exposures.
This is Phoebe Wall-Howard, an automotive reporter at the Detroit Free Press. The Detroit 3 automakers celebrated closure after the UAW strike that lasted 40 days last year, but Ford seems to be having an ongoing issue with the local contract in Louisville, Kentucky. The Kentucky truck plant workers have threatened to strike on Friday if resolution isn't achieved. In fact, that's one of the highest profit plants, the Kentucky truck plant, that builds the Ford Super Duty pickups. So Ford is trying to come to conclusion, resolution, and a local contract with the UAW or monitoring closely. Go to freep.com to learn more.
I'm Andrew Merkel with the Free Press Sports Department, and on Tuesday, the Lions parted ways with a familiar face. Tracy Walker, a veteran safety who has spent all 6 years of his career with the Lions, announced on social media that he would no longer be with the franchise that drafted him in the 3rd round. A source later confirmed with the Free Press the Lions do intend to cut Walker in a move that will free up roughly $5.5 million in salary cap space. While the move is not particularly surprising with the rise of Brian Branch and Ifeatu Melifonwu, both defensive backs who are younger and cheaper than Walker, it is a little bit jarring to see someone who has been on the ground floor of the Lions rebuild leave the team. But thus is life as a good team in the NFL. That's because being good in the NFL means that you have a lot of talented players, and talented players are expensive. In a league designed for parity like the NFL, that means sometimes you have to make tough decisions. Letting Tracy Walker go was one of those tough decisions. He provides great depth, and despite only starting 6 games last year, he appeared in all 17. Walker had nothing but good things to say about his time with the Lions organization, thanking the Ford family, the Lions fans, and the city of Detroit for how they treated him. But this is an early lesson for the Lions faithful. The longer you stay relevant in the NFL, the tougher these decisions get, and the more often you have to say goodbye to players and sometimes even coaches who are valuable members of your organization. Looking at you, Ben Johnson. 2 off-seasons ago, the Kansas City Chiefs decided it was in their best interest to trade Tyreek Hill, who was still the best receiver in the NFL last year. And you know what they've done since? Went back-to-back Super Bowls. While Lions do have decent depth at safety, their secondary overall is one of their biggest needs heading into the offseason. The Lions will carry a dead cap number of $7.3 million for Walker next year, but they still entered the week about $48 million under next year's projected cap number. So with the Walker move, they'll have a couple extra $1 million to try and improve that secondary that needs some help.
Find more from the Detroit Free Press on freep.com. That's FREEP.com. Thanks for listening, and you'll hear more from us tomorrow.